Welcome. This is not a lesson, a lecture, or a list of dos and don'ts. This is an exploration, a quiet unraveling of something subtle but powerful, how you're being tested, often without knowing. If you've ever felt a shift in the room, when he enters, a strange pressure behind every harmless question, or a tug-of-war between your calm and your craving for closeness, this video is for you today. We dive into a psychological chess game where the board is invisible, but every move leaves an emotional footprint. You don't play by choice, but you are being played. Let's look at the first move he makes. It begins before anything seems to begin. Before the date. Before the flirtation blooms into anything with a label. You're not even sure he likes you yet. But that's when the game starts. He watches you. Not for what you do, but for what you ignore. The way you brush past his subtle delays, his slightly evasive answers. The way you react to not being the center of attention, even if just for a moment. You think you're just getting to know each other, but he's already gathering data. You meet him with openness, maybe a bit of curiosity. And he, whether consciously or not, is looking for a tell. A sign, not of your interest, but of your balance. He wants to see if your world remains intact when his energy isn't constantly feeding it. It's a psychological soft launch, and Carl Jung would say it speaks not to your behavior, but to your shadow's readiness to perform. That hidden part of you, the one shaped by abandonment, shame, the need to please, is the real subject of his attention. You might notice he says something ambiguous, leaves a story half told, glances at another woman, just a beat too long. He's not careless, he's deliberate, but not in a cruel way. He's just testing gravity, your emotional gravity, and you. You're deciding whether to float toward him or stay grounded in yourself. The test is silent, and the silence, that's the real teacher. The pause between messages seems harmless at first. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's not that into texting. You tell yourself not to overthink it after all. It's just a few hours, a day at most. But deep down, you feel the shift. The momentary absence begins to hum in the background like a flickering light you can't quite ignore. He knows exactly what he's doing. This isn't about forgetting to reply. This is a deliberate withdrawal, a pause engineered to see what fills the silence, your confidence or your anxiety. Do you spiral into insecurity? Do you double text? Do you question your worth because of a blinking screen? Carl Jung might call this the projection field, your unconscious neediness projected onto a blank space, where you expect validation to live. When it doesn't arrive on cue, your mind starts producing fantasies and fears like a movie with no script. Here's the part he's watching most closely, not your patience, but your reaction to uncertainty. How long do you wait before wondering if you did something wrong, before shifting your tone, before softening your standards just to re-engage? He's testing your need for reassurance. Testing how much power your craving for clarity gives him. And most dangerously, testing whether you'll abandon your dignity just to end the discomfort. That space between his words becomes a pressure chamber, and in it, your need to mean something is inflated until it pops. You might try to rationalize it. He's not a phone guy, or maybe I scared him off. But it's not about the phone. It's about the void. Because power isn't loud. Sometimes it's just a delay, a 3-hour pause to gauge a lifetime of self-worth. The woman who survives this test isn't the one who ignores the silence. She's the one who doesn't flinch in it, who treats the void not as a threat but as neutral. Your value doesn't shrink just because someone's attention does. You are not a loading screen. You are the system. He compliments you, maybe even praises your kindness, the way you listen, the way you make people feel seen. and for a moment, it feels almost disarming. But behind the soft edges of that flattery, something sharp awaits. He's not just admiring you. He's measuring you. You see, your empathy is like a mirror. To him, the more you reflect, the more he sees what kind of space he's dealing with. But what he's really testing is the source of that kindness. Is it rooted in wholeness or a quiet hunger? Carl Jung once said that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid confronting their own soul. And here, your soul is quietly up for inspection, because when your empathy is offered too easily, without discernment, it stops being strength. It becomes currency. And he wants to know, are you giving because you choose to or because you need to? He might share a small wound, a half confession, nothing to row. Just enough to pull your caring instinct to the surface. Then he waits. Do you try to fix him? Do you soothe, overextend, reassure? Or do you hold presence without bleeding into his pain? This is the test. Does your kindness have edges? Women often believe love is earned through compassion, that the more understanding you are, the more deserving you become. But empathy without boundaries is just self-abandonment with good manners. He's watching how first you melt. If your warmth is a gift or a symptom, the moment you over-identify with his struggle, lose your own emotional footing to carry his, something shifts. You're no longer the woman he's courting, you're the woman he's controlling. Gently, through your own kindness, but when you can feel his story, without losing your own center, you communicate something deeper. I care, but I won't disappear to do it. That, to him, is power. Not because it pleases him, but because it resists him. And resistance, when done with grace, becomes magnetism. You think it's just a joke, a throwaway comment, a mild insult masked as humor. Maybe he's late. Maybe he accidentally touches a sensitive subject, your past, your body, your values. Then he watches, because this isn't about teasing. It's a calibrated micro-boundary violation, a test dressed in charm. He's waiting to see if you'll push back. When you gently protest, he grins. Relax, I'm just playing. And there it is, your first little no. And his reaction to your no isn't half as important as yours. Do you shrink? Apologize for being too sensitive? Laugh it off, even when it stings? Carl Jung would say the persona, the mask you wear, to stay likable is now clashing with your shadow. That deeper, rawer part of you that knows something feels off, and that moment, that internal tension, that's the actual battlefield. He doesn't need a big reaction. He's not looking for a fight. He's looking for a flexibility. He wants to know, how much of yourself will you bend in the name of harmony? This isn't about control, not yet. It's about thresholds. How far can he reach before you reinforce the edge of your identity? If you let it slide, he catalogs it. Not maliciously, just instinctively. One unchecked comment becomes a blueprint for future trespasses, and each time you swallow discomfort, he learns something. Your peace matters less than his play. But when you meet the moment with quiet certainty, don't say that again or even just a steady look. That says, I noticed you. Become unpredictable, and unpredictability to a tester is unsettling, because it means the rules aren't theirs to define. You don't need to roar. You don't need to fight. You just need to not yield. Because when you hold your line, you remind him, this is not a playground. This is presence, and at his boundaries, he may smile, pivot, test again later, but something changes. He now knows you are not here to perform emotional acrobatics just to keep his attention. You are not a circus. You are the ringmaster of your own self-disrespect. He tells you something contradictory. Says he's not looking for anything serious, but gets jealous when you're unavailable. claims he loves honesty, then punishes you with silence when you speak your truth. He's not confused. He's strategic. This is the double standard trap. And it's not about hypocrisy, it's about compliance. He's setting up a lopsided emotional economy where he gets to be flawed. But you must be perfect. Where his inconsistencies are forgiven, as just how men are, but yours are scrutinized like warning signs. You feel it, the imbalance. But you don't want to seem high maintenance, so you rationalize. He's just guarded. He's had a rough past, and with each excuse, you quietly shift your standards until you barely recognize your own lines. Carl Jung called this the danger of unconscious identification. When you start internalizing his view of the relationship, his comfort zone, his narrative, and lose track of your own. So he tells you a half-truth, flirts with someone in front of you, tests your silence, and what he really wants to know is, will you pretend not to notice? Because pretending not to notice is the gateway drug to self-as. It's subtle at first. You stop asking questions, you censor your emotions, you shrink your needs down to bite-sized suggestions, you become agreeable, accommodating, easy to love, but harder to see. That's the real test. Not whether you accept him, but whether you abandon you. But when you call out the contradiction, not with drama, but with clarity, you shift the frame. You say one thing, but act another. Which one is real? That moment pierces the illusion. It disrupts the dynamic he's building, where you give more to receive less. And here's the twist: when you see the double standard and still choose to center yourself, you become dangerous. Because now, you're not playing a role, you're reclaiming authorship. He may retreat or escalate, but he'll know one thing: you saw through the test. And you choose truth over tension, and that, quietly, is power. At first, it's intoxicating. The messages come fast. The compliments overflow. He wants to see you, hear you, claim you. It feels like a dream until it doesn't. Because just as quickly as it began, the current shifts, the text's slow, the energy fades, and suddenly, you're wondering what you did wrong. He's testing the architecture of your self-worth, this pattern flood. Then famine isn't just emotional whiplash, it's a calibration. He's measuring how dependent your confidence becomes on his attention. The more you glow under his spotlight, the more he watches to see what happens when the light dims. Carl Jung might call this the dance between ego and anima, your need to be mirrored by the masculine, or feel validated through romantic recognition. But now, that mirror has become a trick window, sometimes reflecting you fully, sometimes not at all. The test is this: does your sense of being wanted collapse when he stops showing it? If you rush to fix the vibe, over-explain yourself, or reach out first just to check in, you've revealed a weakness. Not because you care, but because your identity became tied to how much space he gave you to exist. In his world, he uses charm like a switch, not to manipulate, but to probe. Can he shape your mood with a single emoji? Can he disappear for a day and return to find you still waiting, still hopeful, still emotionally parked in a place he left? But when you hold steady, when you don't chase, don't shrink, don't emotionally audition, you show him something rare. Your glow doesn't depend on his electricity. You are not lit by outside sparks. You are the flame. He may not like it. He may pull harder or fade entirely. But the moment you stop reacting to his rhythm, he loses control of the tempo, and the game begins to crumble. Because it's hard to play puppeteer when the strings won't move. This is not about punishing him. It's about preserving you. You are not the recipient of affection. You are the source of radiance. It comes out of nowhere. A sly accusation, a pointed question, Are you hiding something? You seem like the type who, maybe he jokes, that you're too flirty, or too cold, or not really over your ex. He smirks while saying it, like he's kidding, but he's watching closely. He's not asking to know the truth. He's asking to test your reaction. This is projection as bait, an old psychological tactic where he throws his inner chaos into your field and waits to see what you'll do with it. Carl Jung believed projection is the greatest danger in relationships because the one doing the projecting stops seeing you and starts reacting only to the image they've created of you. So he plants a story, one where you're the problem, the risk, the unpredictable one. And here's what he's really testing. Will you abandon your inner truth just to clean up a story that was never yours? You feel the heat rise in your chest. You want to defend, explain, soothe. You want to clarify what you're not. But in doing so, you step into the role he wrote for you. You become the character in his movie, eager to prove you're safe, agreeable, lovable. But the more you perform against his projection, the more real it becomes in his mind. Because now, you are no longer authentic or reactive. The woman who passes this test doesn't defend herself. She deflects the entire frame. She pauses, looks him straight in the eye and says, "That sounds more like your fear than my truth." With that single line, you return the projection to its rightful owner. This isn't just about defiance. It's about anchoring in your own knowing, the more solid your self-concept, the less room there is for his story to stick. You are not responsible for other versions of you that live in someone else's head. Let him test. Let him guess. Let him spiral. Your job is not to convince him of who you are. Your job is to be who you are, unmoved, unbothered, and edited. You relax. You let him in. Maybe it's late at night. Maybe you've laughed more than usual. Maybe he finally said the words you wanted to hear. In that tender moment, something opens. You stop guarding your energy. You lean in, emotionally, maybe even physically. And in that moment, he's watching not what you give, but what you surrender. This is the surrender illusion, not the healthy kind of trust, but the quiet experiment he runs when he senses your guard is down. Now, he's no longer testing your resistance. He's testing your submission. What parts of your identity begin to dissolve just because you feel chosen? Carl Jung would call this the dissolving of ego boundaries, the collapse of self into other. In the name of connection, it feels romantic, but when unconscious, it becomes dangerous. He notices how your tone softens, how your plans flex around his, how your language shifts from me to we before anything is actually mutual. He may even pull back right after intimacy, not because he's scared, but because he wants to see if you'll still show up for yourself once you've opened to him. And sometimes that opening becomes a leak. You let his moods dictate your emotional state. You wait for his validation to anchor your jaw. You confuse closeness with merging, and in doing so, you start erasing the small, quiet signals that once protected you. This test isn't obvious. He may still text, still say sweet things, but beneath it, he's watching. Have you abandoned your sovereignty in the name of being adored? The answer lies not in what you gave, but in what you stopped giving yourself. But when you let your guard down without losing your center, the game changes. You show him something rare, a woman who can love with her heart open and her spine intact, a woman who shares her light, but never dims her edges. He may not say it, but he'll feel it. Your softness is not surrender. It is discernment. And that kind of woman cannot be played. She can only be met. You think you're responding as yourself, calm, collected, rational. But the truth is, something deeper reacts before you do. A flare of jealousy, a flash of insecurity, a tightening in the chest when he pulls away or plays coy. That's not you reacting, that's your shadow. And he's not just testing your boundaries now. He's awakening your oldest wounds. Carl Jung defined the shadow as the hidden part of you that holds everything you've been taught to deny. Your fear of not being enough. Your craving to be chosen. Your quiet rage at being overlooked. And this man, whether he knows it or not, is pressing directly on that part. It's not the real-time moment that stings. It's what it activates. The ex who made you feel replaceable. The parent who withheld approval. The friend who only loved. The agreeable version of you. Every test he offers is really an echo. And your reaction isn't new, it's remembered. When he pulls away, your shadow panics. When he flirts with someone else, your shadow screams. When he asks if you're too emotional, your shadow doesn't want to be seen at all. And so you do what you've always done. Perform stability. Smile while cracking. Prove you're unbothered. Stay sweet to keep his interest even when your soul wants to scream. But the real test is not about him. It's about how well you've met your own shadow. When you notice the reaction rising, when you feel your nervous system preparing for rejection, and instead of reacting, you reflect, something shifts. You become a conscious player in your own inner world. You say, oh, there she is, the part of me that fears abandonment. I see her, but I'm not handing her the mic. That's the work. That's the passage. Because the woman who can hold her shadow without letting it drive passes every test. Whether he knows he's giving one or not, you stop being a participant in his game. You become a mirror so sharp, so clean, that even his projections fall away. And in that stillness, you finally realize you are not being tested. You are being revealed. By now, you've seen it. The push and pull, the pauses, the charm that turns cold, then hot again. The games dressed as jokes, the moments that felt off but were brushed away as just a phase and stale. You wonder, did I pass? But here's the truth. You were never the player. You were the game from the beginning. He's been moving through your space, setting the rules, shifting the tone, adjusting the temperature, but only because you allowed the board to stay open. What he didn't expect, what he couldn't expect, is that somewhere along the way, you'd wake up, not just to him, to you. Carl Jung might say your unconscious has started to integrate. The parts you once rejected, your anger, your desire, your clarity, have returned. And now, you are no longer navigating this from the surface. You're moving from the root. So when he tests you again, makes a vague statement to provoke doubt, disappears after an intimate moment, questions your tone, you don't flinch, you don't retaliate, you don't chase, you simply see it and decide, is this a dance I still want to do? Because the test has flipped. Now you're the one observing. You're the one noticing the cracks in his confidence. The way he needs to provoke to feel power. The way he responds when you stop performing, and slowly, he realizes he's lost his grip. Not because you won, but because you stopped playing. This is not about being cold or superior. It's about being awake, emotionally sovereign, capable of love, but unwilling to twist yourself for it. The real game was never about him. It was about whether you would finally choose you. And now, with every grounded breath, every silent no, every refusal to chase validation, you're writing your own rules. He may stay, he may go, but either way, you are no longer the pawn. You are the board. You didn't need to pass his test. You needed to recognize that you were never meant to take it in the first place. The moment you started anchoring in your own truth, the game lost its grip. You are not someone to be measured, adjusted, decoded. You are someone to be met as you are. Every moment of doubt, every emotional curveball, every what did I do wrong, All of it was a doorway back to yourself. And now that you're standing there, clearer, firmer, more whole, something powerful emerges. Your ability to choose from alignment, not fear. Keep choosing you. You're not here to earn love. You're here to embody it. If this resonated with you, I invite you to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear these words, and leave a comment about your own experiences with emotional tests or moments of self-reclamation. And stay tuned, our next video continues this journey into emotional boundaries, shadow work, and the art of becoming unshakable. You're not alone in this, and you're not playing anymore.